Welcome to another episode on the Life Matters Plus One YouTube channel. Thank you to my return viewers and welcome to my new viewers. Here on Life Matters Plus One YouTube channel, we talk about all things in life centered around mental health, trying to do my part and help normalize a highly stigmatized topic. So sit back and enjoy this next episode on the Life Matters Plus One channel. LMP1 family, welcome back to another episode. On this episode, I'll be discussing the impact of the pandemic. We are coming up on a year since the pandemic has started, and I know many of us are coming up on a year of even when we got the initial lockdown. So now that it's been a year since the pandemic, there's many stories being shared across platforms of the effects of COVID-19. And I recently read an article that I think summed up a lot of the effects of COVID-19. This article can be found on the Pew Research site, and I'll put the link to the article in the comments. So for those of you that do want to go and share it, because I'll be summarizing it, but you may, have interest in looking at it a little more thoroughly. The article is entitled, in their own words, Americans Describe the Struggles and Silver Linings of COVID-19. So in August of 2020, the Pew Research Group offered those willing to tell how their lives became more difficult or challenging and if they experienced unexpectedly positive events. A vast majority of Americans, 89%, mentioned at least one negative change, while a smaller amount, while it was still 73%, shared one unexpected positive change. For all the difficulties and challenges of the pandemic, a majority of Americans were able to think of at least one silver lining. Research revealed the pandemic affected American lives in a variety of ways, which there being no typical experience. So the article had some direct quotes from questions asked while conducting research that subtopics of this article were developed from. The first one being the impact on relationships. Isolation for some, stronger bonds for others. So two direct quotes under this one in particular was, life has slowed down and brought family and friends closer. Another, even for an introvert, there's such a thing as too much isolation. So many Americans responded by bringing up how the pandemic altered their ability to engage with family and friends. 41% of those that answered the single most common category of comments centered around missing family and friends. Many described feelings of isolation. Others described newly crowded living situations, strained relationships, or loss of loved ones. 33% of Americans mentioned positive impacts, like being able to spend more time with spouses, children, or other family members who no longer spend days at school or work. Others increased use of video chat compared to prior to the pandemic, and some enjoyed the lack of social obligations. Next subtopic covered was impact on activities, disrupted routines, and new hobbies. So two quotes from there that I'll share. The destruction of our routines has been disorienting. Another, mandatory relaxation, such as things like reading, needlework, crosswords, long outdoor walks, no commitments on calendar to worry about. 32% Americans mentioned limits to activities and how free time is used. These responses focused on being stuck at home and not being able to travel. 26% Americans talked about ways their daily lives had improved, describing a slower pace of life, new hobbies, more time to get things done around the house, or freedom to simply relax in ways they were not possible pre-pandemic. Next subtopic covered was impact on health. Loss of loved ones, depression, and declining physical health balanced by relatively few positives. Also, two direct quotes under here, I'm eating healthier because I'm eating out less. Another, the isolation has been difficult. I've also gained weight and become more sedentary. 14% of Americans mentioned how positive lifestyle changes like eating healthier diet or exercising more often, while others mentioned feeling less stressed in their day-to-day lives or having a renewed appreciation for things that matter to them. Twice as many Americans described how the physical or mental health of themselves or others they care about degraded as the pandemic dragged on. Many mourned the loss of loved ones or detailed their own struggles with COVID-19. Others described indirect health impacts, including stress, depression, weight gain, or lack of exercise. 1 in 3 women were likely to mention physical or mental health, while only 1 in 5 men mentioned physical or mental health. Next subtopic, impact on society and politics. Almost entirely negative. So one quote under this here was, politicians are fighting as fiercely and as polarized as ever. This is how the Republic of the United States ends. We're at the end of the Republic. What's next is uncertain. Atrocity, fascism, civil war, chaos. So 26% of these responses pointed to the ways which our government, political culture, or society in general seemingly degrade over the course of the pandemic. Some Americans did see the world through a more positive lens. They described ways in which the pandemic brought out the best in society. However, these responses were so rare, researchers could not reliably measure them. That's unfortunate. Impact on work. Work-life balance improves for some, disappears for others. So 2 quotes under here. Teleworking has been a welcome change. I enjoy the extra hours a day I would have spent commuting. I also enjoy spending more time with my wife. I know I'm fortunate and I'm grateful. Another, I am a teacher and I have worked myself to the bone to deliver education remotely. It's completely exhausting. 23% Americans described how the pandemic negatively impacted their job or career or those people they know. These experiences range from losing their job or having their work reduced, being more stressed at work or frustrated about working from home. Educators, healthcare workers, and essential workers note and wrote about their difficulties in detail. 13% did mention positive changes to their work situation, typically in context to being able to work from home. They described greater productivity, the lack of commute, I would have enjoyed that, and a better work-life balance. The silver linings were divided along income and educational attainment. Those with higher education and higher income levels were more likely to mention positive work changes. Next subtopic, impact on finances. Some save money, but many feel financial strain. 2 quotes under here. Our water is being turned off tomorrow because my husband's hours were cut, but he somehow still makes too much to get any assistance. In a few days, our electric will be off, and soon after, our gas. We have had barely enough to cover rent and put a little bit of food in the house. Another, spending less money because there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. So these was the least mentioned negative experience, but 22% Americans mentioned economic difficulties resulting from the pandemic. Many of these responses describe unemployment or jobless. Others express frustration with rising prices, failing businesses, or cost of living increases. In contrast, 13% mentioned positive financial changes resulting from being able to save money. So those were the subtopics within that were talked about. Again, I will have this down in the comments for those of you that want to read it a little more in depth, more thoroughly. And I will share a few other, at the bottom they have like a gang of direct quotes from people. I pulled some that kind of stood out to me, but again, if you want to see them all, the link will be down in the comments. So a woman 65 and over commented, people are actually being more kind in our area. A man 30 to 49 years old quoted, "My depression has gotten worse and I almost lost my job because of it. I'm terrified to send our children to school and daycare, so we've lost income to keep them home. Our extended family lives far away and has not been able to come see us and help." A woman 50 to 64 years old, "Being sequestered has caused a lot of emotional issues with my children. I have to work more jobs to support them financially, yet figure out how to be home with them in order to make sure they're fed, safe, and educated." A woman 50 to 64, "I'm still employed and my employer has been supportive of ensuring we have a safe environment at home." A woman 18 to 29, "I think it definitely takes a toll emotionally and mentally worrying about my siblings who work in environments where many people come and go. There's high exposure and risk, but work continues and it's something that is constantly on my mind." Woman 30 to 49, "As a registered nurse in an acute care facility, I spend less time with my own family. I can't do the home or self-improvement and other great things people are doing or did while on lockdown. I've been frequently asked, well, why not? Then I must explain that I'm working 60 plus hours a week at the hospital because there are no activities going on. People expect others to be more accessible." A woman 30 to 49, "I enjoyed a slow down culture of life since COVID. American life can be a rat race with something to have to do every evening, running children around to sports and activities." A woman 30 to 49, "My salary and contribution to my retirement has been cut by my employer." Because I know for me, the pandemic has had both negative and positive impacts. I have found myself having spurts of motivation, especially doing things I had previously been too busy for. But at the same time, there's no consistency in my motivation. I had periods where I loved the isolation, but then I also craved human interaction. I had to cancel a trip that was scheduled to take place the time we first went under lockdown here, and I've never wanted to travel and fly so bad in my life. But aside from the obvious, dealing with the circumstances around returning to the island here currently, it makes me not want to go anywhere at the same time. I found interest in new things and enjoyed more quality time with my family. I became both intentional about my mental health, but that came with an awareness of parts of my mental illness I had yet to deal with. I've had periods of depression and anxiety, and my OCD has heightened since the pandemic. My thoughts are more excessive and intrusive than ever before. As restrictions have eased and I've connected with others while I've enjoyed the time, it's exhausted and drained me too at the same time. All in all, I can say I am one of the fortunate ones when I look at positives and negatives I've experienced in comparison to the ones shared in the article. Many lost their jobs. I had 2 job offers in the midst of the pandemic. Many lost homes and struggled to keep food on the table. I've not lacked a meal or wondered where my next meal was going to come from, and I had a place to comfortably and securely lay my head every night. I could go on, but the point is my positives continually have outweighed the negatives. God has been more than good, and I thank Him just for who He is. I pray though those that have been impacted more negatively than positively by the pandemic come to know and trust God even through this. So be kind, because many are facing and fighting battles we know nothing about, and your kindness can be the very thing they need to keep going. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.